Well, welcome back, everyone, to, I guess this is Ben's call. So obviously, Ben is not here. He is tending to his family, his newly expanded family, and we congratulate him and Kim and Evie, their newborn, and the entire Woodward family for this great way. What a great way to start a new year with a birth in the family. And it's almost metaphorical for what we're doing here, actually, being the first call that we're getting together on as field leaders in birthing a new NECAN. And I know this past year has been one that has asked, I think, a lot of many of us. And the thing that I'm grateful for most is that for many of us on this call and those watching the playback, you've held it together. And you've given people a landing pad, you know, a place to maybe lean a shoulder on, maybe have a conversation about, because you know that you have a purpose. And a life filled with purpose is a life that has no fear. You can go into life fearlessly when you know that your life has purpose. And I think this is what's lacking for so many people right now who are plagued by fear, because they do not have a strong connection to their sense of purpose. If you don't know why you're alive, if you don't know why you're here, you know, you feel quite vulnerable and alone, and potentially, you know, the end of your life could be meaningless as the life that you're living. And that kind of state of mind is one that obviously creates a sense of vulnerability that leads to impending doom and fear. Well, we need to help people make a connection to purpose, their purpose. And there's one thing that I fell in love with early on in NECAN was the realization that the purpose of NECAN, through its mission of humans being more, is a purpose that is everyone's purpose. It's not specific in terms of your vision. Everyone has their own unique vision of what that looks like in their life. But there's not a single human being alive that doesn't want a healthy body, mind, family, society, finances. Of course, if they were in their right of mind, they would want what we represent. And so NECAN is a beacon. It's a call to assemble around this ideal, and this ideal that is worthy of our life. So we're starting January. Here we are in 2021 with so much anticipation, expectation, and question marks all at the same time. I think this is where we're required to really make decisions for ourselves, for our future. You know, we're something, I think, and maybe unique in some ways as a family. We had a very specific vigil on January 1st in order to set the tone for the new year, complete with incense and
okay,
sharing.
Well, good luck on that.
Okay. And focus. We wrote down things about what we were letting go of and things that we wanted to introduce into our lives, and goals and expectations that we have for ourselves, realizing that this is in fact a very unique time and place in humanity. It's not just our own individual experience of life, but humanity itself. So I would call attention to the need for us to become more formal in our approach as leaders in NECAN to building our future. If you haven't had a chance to review any of the last few weeks' calls of Aligning with Success, I really encourage you to do that. There was a call that Ruth was on, I think it was the very last one that we did, who is our newest Team Taishi in North America. Congratulations, Robert and Ruth, who were recognized yesterday on the call last night. I think it's important, first of all, to take note of that and to then reflect on that call, because you're hearing from somebody who has a formula for success. And this formula is universal. It's what you've been learning about, especially if you're on the Aligning with Success call. You've been learning that there is a lawful process to the creation of our reality, of our experience as individuals. And regardless of what's happening in the outside world, you can create a bubble and a very unique experience within that. Though the sky could be falling, but you could still create a very unique experience within that. And for Ruth and Robert, this year, this 2020 that's just passed, was one of prosperity, one of productivity, one of expansion, one of collaboration, and so forth, to the point where she is recognized as a premier consultant in Nikken North America. And I think it's really relevant then, if you step back and go back to that video and watch the Aligning with Success call, the last one of 2020, and listen to her formula. Because it's a formula that everyone can apply. It's not something that is unique to her. And I think that's what's really critical about how we approach this year, starting right away. If you haven't already set your goals, then I think it's important that if you did absolutely nothing else, don't even pick up the phone, don't pick up a book, do nothing until you've actually established in writing what it is that you want for yourself, what you expect for yourself. So I think starting this new year with a new vision, and a vision that is in alignment with Nikken's vision of 2025, is perhaps the most important thing you can do, because everything springs forward from that vision. All the things that you are inspired by, inspired to be, all the information that comes your way, that registers in your consciousness. You could have been on many of my calls or Ben's calls, and you didn't hear what you needed to hear, even though it was there. And the reason you didn't hear what you needed to hear, even though it was there, is because you were not aligned. Your frequency wasn't there. You weren't hearing with the ears that were in alignment with that information. And so you missed it. Information that could have been transformative for you, as it has been for Ruth. So I think that if you want to access the information that's going to lead you to some great successes in 2021 going forward, you need to make a decision that's in alignment with that information. And so set your expectations higher than you've ever set them before. And I'm serious about that. Higher than you've ever set them before. And I'll tell you why. Because whatever you set as a sincere expectation for yourself drew to you information. And if there was doubt sprinkled into those expectations, what also was drawn to you was information that supported the doubt. So we've got to clean house. We've got to start with a fresh slate and move into 2021 with expectations to create something we've not even created before. Because it's in that we gain the most insights. It's in that we gain the most energy and expectations, the most insights, all the information that's relevant to an experience that brings joy because it's new and exciting. So set some new and exciting expectations. I set an expectation to hit Team Kaizen this past year. Even though as a field leader, I'm often engaged in the activities of managing my organization, and it's sufficient to do that. I mean, I have a sizable organization, but that's not leading. And that's not even in alignment with my own purpose, which is to always expand and to always bring greater fulfillment, not only to my life, but the lives of people I come into contact with. So doing Nikken and succeeding in Nikken is part and parcel with the fulfillment of my purpose. And that's why I continue to thrive in Nikken, because it's never wavered from that. And I suggest then you take stock of what Nikken means to you in the fulfillment of your purpose on planet Earth. While the time you have here, you want to make the most of it. Align yourself with a purpose that's fulfilling. And clearly, for many of us on this call, it is to bring Nikken into the lives of other people, which is not just about products, by the way. I'm sure you know. While our products are exceptional and certainly support the vision and the fulfillment of our purpose, it's not why we do what we do. And it's not why people will join us either. People will join us and be part of these calls and so forth because they want to be part of a community that has a sense of purpose, that is actually making a difference in the world. And all you need to do is get around somebody who has a definiteness of purpose, and you know they're an exciting person to be around. And so if you want to be somebody who attracts, get excited. Fall in love with the idea. Do whatever you have to do to make sure you do not leave this week, maybe even just this day, without really getting into the thick of this. Now, I'm going to leave it at that because we can go on and on about this, and I don't think we need to. I think we just need to be very clear about our decisions. And let me help you with some of that, because some information that was shared with us yesterday on the kickoff call was quite relevant to that. If you're looking for a business plan, or if you're sponsoring somebody and you're looking to be able to offer them a business plan, I think it's really, really important that you have a very clearly defined 3-step process for onboarding new customers and especially new consultants. If you do not have a clearly defined 3-step process for onboarding new consultants, then that's what you need to focus on next. Why? Because if you don't know how to get it done, you don't know how to teach it, and you don't know how to do it quickly and efficiently, which is the call to action this year. We need efficiency, and we need it to be very quick. So get very clear about what those 3 steps are. If somebody says, how do I get started? What do we do next? You have 3 steps that come off the tip of your tongue before they can say boo. If you don't have that, get it. Make that your mission this week, is to be very clearly defined as to how somebody gets on board, and you can. Now, in lieu of that, with respect to that, the incentives document, which came out yesterday, actually, I'm getting the high-end PDF today, and that will go off to the printers at lifeinbalancetools.com. They already have now the PDF for the calendar that was shown yesterday on the call. That calendar is something, hey, how about that? How many of you actually have a physical calendar in your house that you hang on the wall? Wouldn't you like a Niken calendar? Well, that's being printed. So that should be available sometime later this month. Stay tuned for that. In addition, there will be a print version of the incentives program. The reason why I think it's so important to have the print version of it is because while digital stuff is fast and easy, and we definitely want to take advantage of that, to have the print version in your hand so that you can literally go through it yourself or go through it with somebody at a coffee shop or something, I think is just as important. There's something tangible about it being in the written form. So what we saw yesterday, I think is part of that. What's the 3-step process in terms of getting somebody going? Now, the first thing that I do when I go into recruit mode, by the way, if I haven't said this already, Happy New Year, everyone. I'm sort of a little bit ahead of myself. So back to this, the 3 steps of getting somebody started often calls to mind, what are my 3 steps? What is it that I need in order to not only follow it, but use it to teach it and duplicate it? Duplication is everything when it comes to sponsoring new people, which is why I said you've got to have 3 clearly defined steps. 3 clearly defined steps is easy to teach, easy to talk about, easy to duplicate. So the first thing I do when I go into recruit mode, always, and I mean always since I can remember, is I tool up. I call it tooling up. It means I need to put in front of me all the tools that I have, what needs to be modified, what needs to be brought back into center focus. That's what I do. And Life in Balance Tools exists primarily for me. It exists primarily for me. The reason why I went to the trouble of finding these guys and making this happen, and with Ben's help, of course, especially with all the graphic, is because I need to have the tools at my disposal, but they also need to be available to the people I enroll. And for that to be available for the people they enroll, it has to be universally accessible, which is why the digital versions are great, but the physical form is just as important, in my opinion. So Life in Balance Tools is what I always refer to as my toolbox. That's where I go for my tools. And so the first thing I think about is, what are the tools I'm going to need to embark on this journey, which is a journey of creating massive recruitment into the Niken family. And so one of the tools that is essential is this one you see on the screen right now, the incentive program. This incentive program has been modified. I don't know if you caught that yesterday, but it was a very important adjustment to the incentive program because it now creates a very clear path for rank advancements. That's the key. It is a clear path for rank advancements. In the past, what we had was ranks, and we promoted ranks. And it was all about getting to the next pin, getting to the next pin. The problem with that is that there was no clear path to getting to that pin. So you had all kinds of a mishmash approach. And in many ways, that meant for the lack of duplication. And not only that, but businesses that were not really solid. So what we now have, and we've talked about this last year, but it wasn't as clearly aligned as it is right now. That slight adjustment was critical. And I'll point out what that adjustment is in a moment. The idea here is then if everyone enrolled in Nikken with the goal to create a business, then you, by default as their sponsor, should be able to give them a business plan that you're following.
Go.
Whoops. We've got somebody on the... Not sure where that's coming from. Okay, sorry. If you're on the call, please mute yourselves. Very, very disruptive. Okay, so here's our path. Power Start. The first thing you want somebody to attain when they enroll in Nikken is the Power Start. Now, that comes with its own recognition and its own perks, but it's a clearly defined path, which includes some retail and maybe some sponsoring and maybe their own personal purchases. Regardless, it's 1,500 points in volume to attain the Power Start within 30 days of enrollment. Notice it's within 30 days of enrollment and not within a calendar month. Very critical. What if you have somebody enrolls on January 15th? Then they would only have 16 days in the month if it was based on a calendar month. It's 30 days. So their lifespan of 30 days now consists of a focused effort to at least attain the Power Start. So you now have a business plan that's specific to that individual. And that's really, really important because we're going to have people enrolling in Nikken throughout the month in various months. And we want a plan that's specific to them specifically when they enroll. So this is an important key point about the Power Start because it's going to help them advance to the executive rank in their first 30 days, which ought to be mandated if you're at all serious about this as a business. Now, what's the next step? Well, the next rank is silver. But again, the challenge with having just a goal of a rank is that it doesn't define the effort. It doesn't tell you exactly what the plan is. But if you look at Club Ki has now been modified where Club Ki is not based on the quarterly calendar. It's not based on January, February, March, April, May, June. It's now based on the new person's 3-month window. And that is not just the new person, it's everybody. So any 3-month rolling 3 months, which means, again, if they start at some point in the month, they have those 3 months to start, or the next 3 months to accumulate that Club Ki, regardless of which, if they attain Club Ki, they are on par for silver. You see what I mean? They've done 4,000 volume. They've achieved the rank of silver, maybe even on par for gold, which, by the way, is a cinch or a shoo-in if they go for Club Ki Pro. So now you have a clear path of incentives with their own rewards and their clear objectives, objectives that set in motion a behavior that is consistent with the pattern we want to help people become consistent in. The combination, this is important, the combination of both retail activity and sponsoring. It's the combination of both. It acknowledges both, that these are both essential elements, and that creates a sustainable business. So what they are learning as a foundation for their business, as a modus operandi, if you will, is a path and the behavior consistent to not only achieve these rank promotions and these incentive awards, but it's the consistency of volume that's generated from that creates sustainable income for all of the members of the community. I think this is really, really critical. That subtle change has been really, really important. And of course, Team Kaizen gives us a long-term projection into the future for the whole year. So if you follow this pathway, what you've got is an executive, silver, gold, platinum run for anybody who's either in Nikken or just joining Nikken. So now your business plan that you point to is the incentive program. There's no question about it. And that now that we all have one, and it's the same one, it makes it for a duplicatable path. Now, when we gather at our Nikken events online, when you speak about Nikken, you're going to be using the same language as everybody else. Now there's no confusion as to how to get the job done or what the focus ought to be, where somebody's at in the program. I think this is really, really a key advent in our business to streamline how is the onboarding process and how do we get people going so that there's one language, one vibration, one frequency so that we can all speak it, learn it, speak it, teach it, and transfer it to others. And this is the key. This is the pathway. If you have any questions about this, don't hesitate to get involved in the dialogue of uploading this, because this is going to be really, really critical to your process. Get really strong about this. What we ought to see in the year of 2021 is an influx, just an inordinate amount of recognition of these incentives, which are going to be happening on the part of Nikken Corporate. I don't know if you've noticed that, but they're taking strides to give us our recognition sooner than later. They did that, in fact, last night. I actually closed out Team Kaizen December 2nd, and I had to wait until yesterday before it was even acknowledged, and it's still not official because the month isn't officially closed until the 10th. So they're trying to give us recognition sooner so that it prompts, obviously, what you recognize multiplies. And so they're going to be really, really focusing on recognition at these online events. And if we're really focused on helping people attain these objectives, these incentives, because we're all on the same page about it, we're talking about it, we're sharing it in ABCs and so forth, guess what? What you promote, what you recognize multiplies. So that's going to happen. We're going to start to see more and more of this. And the net effect of that is advancements in rank. Now, I'm so encouraged because I received over the last few days the monthly email that I received from Gloria Nava, who is the head of the KOI team. She's the person who, if you're in KOI, you're part of Gloria Nava's organization in Latin America. And she gave me the breakdown as she does every single month. Every month, by the way, she gives me a breakdown of all the rank advancements in every country she has business of silvers, golds, platinums, diamonds, and royal diamonds. And if I read this to you, it would take another 10 minutes. But you can't imagine how exciting it is to read, for instance, over 101 silvers advanced in rank in November, just in her group in Mexico. Now, how would you like to be part of that? How would you like to be part of a wave in North America in 2021 where we close out 2021 with numbers like that as a collective? I think that is a worthy mission, because what it represents is not just a benefit to us personally, but imagine all the families whose lives will have been transformed because of their new connection to this thing called Nikken, this global wellness community. If you love Nikken for all it is, then there are so many families out there that deserve to know about it. And we have to get more bold in our approach to making sure they hear about it. So telling your story, I think, was one of the things that came up in the most recent of trainings, one of which I got from GoPro. After the first day of GoPro a couple of weeks ago online, the virtual GoPro, and if you haven't got your ticket, Virtual GoPro 2021, get it now. I tell you, The first day, after the entire first day, I went back to my notes, and the thing that came loud and clear after the first of 3 days was, tell your story. Tell your story. And one of the other things that came from that was that it didn't have to be a pristine story. In fact, most people can't relate to the perfect story. They can relate to humans and they can relate to your story. And so it doesn't have to be perfect, but get better at telling it. Tell your story. That is what enrolls people. That is what causes people to take a step further into the conversation and want to know more about Nikken. So I wanted to talk to you about this very, very, very important pathway to make sure that you're using this. Now, I got my own personal tools to ramp things up. Like, I want people working on their list, because obviously, who are we going to talk to is going to become the next question. And so I use this tool, the $1 Million List, still. In fact, I'm having a translation of this done into Spanish so that there will be a Spanish version of this as well for our Latino counterparts that are now growing in North America. So yeah, I think this is an important tool. On the flip side of this is the strategy for completing the Power Start and Club Kiat. That's the key to this. So I use this as a mechanism because it's a single item that I can point to and that people can actually put pen to paper on. I want their names written. I know they have them in their phone, but for some reason, when it goes from the ethers into a physical form, it transitions from being just an idea to being a fact. So I think it's really important that we utilize what's available to us to get the job done. So if you have any questions about any of these things, please don't hesitate to start chatting on our chats. Now, most of you are already familiar with this, that we use WhatsApp as a tool for chatting. I think it's also very important that we recognize that that chat is where the community meets with regularity. In other words, sometimes the chats are annoying. Ding, 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 ding. Happy birthday, happy dibba. Yeah, I get that. And I get annoyed too, because it's supposed to be a business chat, but it's also a community chat. So recognize that we want to grow our community. Well, how do we know we even exist if we're not plugged into some form of a community? You know, when you go to church and you walk into church and you see all the people in the pew, you feel like you're part of a community. But if that's not happening, then you don't know if it's even going. So how do we create community in this day and age of everything being online? Well, the community is meeting online. It's meeting in these events and the weekly events that are happening online. So don't think of that event as something that's apart from you. It's there for you and because of you. And our goal is to grow the community online, which means invite people to these experiences. It's an opportunity for them to connect with the Nikken family. Also, the WhatsApp chats. When you enroll somebody, be sure that they're plugged into at least the WhatsApp chat called, if you're Spanish speaking, it's TNG Expansion, because that's the Team Nikken Global Expansion Group for the expansion of Nikken in North America and Europe through the Latino market. And the LP expansion, Launch Partners Expansion, that's the expansion group of the partners that are that are English speaking primarily, looking to expand in the North American market. And we dialogue, we chat, we share. And so also there's the tools chat, TOOLS. That chat is so that people can receive real-time, quick information about any tools that I'm pushing out, which I'll be pushing out today, for instance. So if you're not plugged into those chats, or if you don't have your team members plugged into those chats, then what community are they plugged into? And having a community experience is absolutely essential if they're going to survive, especially their first 90 days, which is the most vulnerable time in the newbie's life. It's those first 90 days because they are uncertain. They're uncertain about the future. They're uncertain about whether or not they belong here. But when they start to hear the conversation, they feel more comfortable about being here. Now, having said that, let me say one other thing about those chats. Just remember who's listening. just remember who's listening. Would you want somebody who's new on your team to be exposed to the message you're going to put on that chat? So just remember who's listening. It's important that these conversations are uplifting and not, this is not a place to complain. This is not an opportunity for you to vent. If you have something that you have an issue with, talk to your upline. Bad news goes up and good news goes down. Keep that in mind, write that in, underscore it. So if you're putting something out on those chats, it needs to be uplifting because you're talking to everybody's people. And people in a community stay together and continue to work together if it's fun, if it's enjoyable, if it's uplifting. So let's make the community alive and vibrant. Utilize those chats in a positive and constructive way, and definitely get on it if you're not on it. Let me just check this message in case I missed something here. This PDF is posted, correct? Yes, it is. The PDF that I was referring to is in fact posted right now already on those chats. I'm expecting a PDF of a high resolution PDF of the incentives program sometime later today. So as soon as I get it, you'll get it. Again, such a brilliant thing to have a tool like WhatsApp to be able to share things like that in real time very, very quickly, including things like recognition. Sometimes we're way ahead of the company on that because we know when our people cross the line, even though the company has to follow their official policies. Take advantage of that. You get somebody who just hits power start, let us know. You get somebody who goes executive, let us know. You know, the more we do that, and of course, if they're on that chat and they get some recognition from people they don't even know, how are they going to feel? They're going to say, oh, I don't want to be part of this. Or are they going to say, oh, this feels really good. I want to be part of this for time to come. So keep that in mind. These are all really small but important nuggets, I think, to kickstart 2021 in a way that is going to generate a momentum. I know for a fact in my conversations with our president and CEO, Luis Kasuga, that 2021 is a foundational year. He's informed us in many ways that the experience that's happening in Latin America began over 3 years ago when they started laying the foundation down with the consultants that they were working with and integrating that information into the field. What you are seeing right now, for instance, even the Master Day, just the word Master Day for our quarterly event, that's a word that they use in the calendar in Latin America. We want NICAN to be global and seamless. Regardless of what country you're coming from, it will be recognizable to you so that you know how to expand in those markets. So realize that this year, 2021, is foundational. It literally is setting a foundation for what is about to come. I've been in this business 29 years. I know, I can smell it. I can taste it in the air. I can smell it. I know when something's about to happen. And this is what I'm telling you. You're either going to be responsible for what is coming, or you'll be standing on the sidelines wondering what just happened, because this is happening. We are going into momentum. We are laying the foundation for it right now. All of the things that you're seeing coming from NICAN is just the beginning. It's just the beginning of what is going to make this the most exciting opportunity in our time. So you are here already. You're already here. You found it. You discovered it. Many of you are living it. Now it's time to share it. So with that, thanks everyone for joining me today. Have a happy New Year week. I'm excited as ever for today and for our future. And I look forward to bumping into you somewhere on the NICAN highway, which could be the chat. It could be one of these Zoom calls. We'll see you again soon. Cheers, everybody.
Thank you, Mike. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.